Hello and welcome to the Wiley podcast, the show where we bring you inspiring stories of individuals who have excelled in their respective fields. I am your host, Aishwarya Gupta, and today we have an incredible success story to share with you. In the highly competitive world of the UPSC exams, where thousands of aspirants compete the coveted positions, one individual stood out and achieved a remarkable feat. In the year 2022, he has secured All India Rank 7, making him a beacon of inspiration, particularly for his home state of Jammu and Kashmir. Currently, he is on the path of becoming an IAS officer, showcasing his dedication and determination. Many aspiring civil servants are eager to unravel the success story of today's guest, hoping to gain insights into his preparation strategy. We have a special guest who has conquered one of the toughest exams in India, the UPSC exam. Joining us is All India Rank 7 in the UPSC exam in the year 2022, Waseem Ahmad Bhat, who will take us through their UPSC preparation journey. Let's delve into his journey. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
Firstly, heartfelt congratulations to your remarkable achievement. We appreciate you taking the time to share your journey with all of us and all our listeners. To start, can you share a bit about yourself and your background before entering into the civil services? Like after the engineering, how did this thought came into your mind that I want to go to for the civil services and I want to appear for the UPSC exam?
So, uh, so firstly, I was doing my engineering in NIT Srinagar, which is a college in Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir. In almost I think the third year of my preparation there, like third year of my BTech there, I came across this thing called as CSE exam. I knew about it earlier also. I had some vague idea about IAS and IPS and IFS of the world, but that time I came to know that there's this particular exam through which you can like get into the services. And the thing that mostly attracted me to this exam at that time was actually the diverse nature of the things that have to be studied in UPSC. And I am more of a like a bookworm, you can say, or a nerd. So I once I saw the syllabus, I was like, okay, I can read this. This is quite interesting. Let me delve into it. So sort of the journey started from there, and then the actual formal coaching or formal sort of studying for UPSC started after I did my BTech in 2019. I came to Delhi on in July 2019, and then the journey started. And after that, I wrote almost like three attempts. In the first attempt, I got into IRS, which is Indian Revenue Service Income Tax. Also trained there for 6 months. Then I also wrote this exam, CSE 2022. And in this exam, I qualified with a rank of 7 and I got into IAS. And now I'm here undergoing training in Missouri.
Thank you so much, sir. Since any kind of preparation requires motivation, we all know that without motivation, we cannot go ahead with any kind of work. What inspired you to pursue a career in the civil services? What yeah.
So, so usually whenever somebody is asked this question, they would usually see that I had say that I had this sense of social service. I too had that sense of social service that I want to do something for the society, something bigger than myself. But you always have this vague notion of social service. You don't know how to do it. When I was in college, I also had this sense. But then one thing that actually drove me towards this exam, the motivation was my curiosity to know about this country, its social, economic, political landscape, and all the things that come with it. And when I saw the general studies of UPSC exam, I was like, this is the thing that I want to do. And that was the initial, like the short-term motivation, you can say, my curiosity to know about these things. So once I went into it, I started to know more and more. I started to read newspapers, I started to read books. I became really fascinated by how much potential there is to do things in civil services. And then I also started to look into some officers and the history of civil services. What many officers have done great things, and that sort of motivation helped me. And with that, I also had this thing that once I do my engineering, because engineering is a very, in some sense, it's a very narrow field. It looks at very technical aspects of things. On the other hand, civil service has a broader domain. So that thing was always there in me. Ki I want to do something that has a broader, diverse kind of nature. These sort of motivations inside your mind, they kind of coalesce into this one big thing that I have to do IAS. So that was the thing. Once I came out of that, then I started my preparation, and I was uh, you can say रोज का जो motivation मेरा था वो ये था कि आज goal complete करना है, whatever thing I have to do today I have to do. But the long term motivation was to do social service, was to actually learn about the things that I have.
So balancing the demands of preparation can be tough. Many aspirants struggle with creating a structured study plan. Could you walk us through the early stages of your preparation journey for the UPSC exam? What were the initial challenges you faced while starting your study? As your background is your background is engineering, and you transform your education or academics just opposite to that. So, how did you what challenges did you face?
So you will usually see the challenges that people face in UPSC preparation are like the general challenges of your life. So they can usually be categorized into two things. One is the material challenges that you can have. You can probably have financial constraints or something like not having access to resources or something like that. For me, I would say one of the material challenges that was there, because I came from an area in Anantnag which is sort of remote, you can say. So in the initial times when in the college I thought of doing these exams, I didn't always sort of know what to read and what to not read. So I would take any newspaper, or probably I would take Hindu and read all of it, like without any discrimination. So that sort of challenge you always have, that you do not have a mentor that can always guide you. You do not have the resources, and that kind of challenge I always had. But then the bigger challenge actually comes in this exam from the psychological domain. So because I was from a remote area, nobody had done this exam earlier in that area. So I always had this thing in my mind, that in the back of my mind, that maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe somebody else must have also tried it before me. So they couldn't do it. How do I think that I'm so arrogant or confident or whatever that I can do it? But then also you have to believe that you can do it. It said recently, I was hearing this podcast of Jeff Bezos. So what he said was, in startup atmosphere also, you know that you most probably will fail, but you have to also sort of put that aside and think that you will do it. So that's the same thing applies to UPSC. You know that statistically you may fail, because 99.9% of the people will fail, but then you also have to believe that you are the one that will get chosen. So I also had that self belief that I will do it. And then in the first attempt itself, when I wrote my first prelims, I got very high marks, like in the prelims. I had never expected that I would get such kind of marks. So when I saw the key and I saw the marks, I'm like, okay, this does not seem to be that difficult as I thought. So then, धीरे धीरे करके I went ahead and I did a rest of things. Then coming to the structure of the preparation in this exam, one of the problems I faced and most of the aspirants face is there's too much to read. Like there's a sort of infodemic inside the UPSC community. So many resources, so much material. Uh, with me also, this happened that in the earlier sort of the first year, I did a lot of newspaper reading and made a lot of notes, like offline notes. Now, this is a weird kind of story. After 1 year, I had never seen those notes again. Like one time I made the notes, I had never revised them again. So that is also one problem, that sometimes you read things, you never come back to them. So the structure has to be there. Now, the structure, where does it come? Uh, this exam is divided into three parts: prelims, mains, and interview. The structure has to be sort of divided into three parts. So for the prelims part, you can say that you have to revise and revise and revise again. Every subject has to be revised so thoroughly that you remember it completely line by line. It's a sort of very crudely to put it, it's sort of ramification, not ramification, sorry, it's sort of ratification. Like you have to remember everything. So that is the thing. Secondly, you have to always ensure that you are keeping some part of your day for practice, because no matter how much you remember, you never know what is being asked in the exam. And if you try to do the test series and all, then you will learn to go forward. That's for the first, like the first part of this exam. Then the second part is means. In means, a different sort of skill set comes into play, which is that you read things to understand and to analyze, and you have to write answers. The basic thing is you have to write answers in this exam. Now, how do you write answers? I think most of the people in the world, if they mostly in the world, if they look at UPSC papers, some of them might say, "Ki, we also know this." Okay, because questions might be so general, like very general, like geography and polity. सबको लगता है कि हमें आता है. But why don't most people qualify? Because they don't have a coherent, structured thought. In that sense, all the human beings have knowledge, but all the human beings do not have organized knowledge. When a question is asked, do you write it in 7 minutes and in an organized format? That is what is needed in UPSC. तो उसके लिए आपको रोज रोज प्रैक्टिस करना ही पड़ेगा. You will have to make yourself sit down and write for like 1 hour or whatever. तो वो स्ट्रक्चर आपका ऐसा होना चाहिए कि आप पढ़ रहे हो, लेट्स से कि आप दिन में 10 घंटे पढ़ रहे हो, तो यू आर डूइंग 8 आवर स्टडी, एंड 2 घंटे एटलीस्ट आप लिख रहे हो या आप क्वेश्चंस देख रहे हो पुराने. तो उनसे आपको समझ आ जाएगा कि you will have a structure in your mind as to what UPSC wants from you. That's the second stage. The third stage would mostly be the interview. Interview में you have to have a very different skill, which is the personality. Your personality has to be such that it is likable. Very simply. अगर आप किसी से मिलते हो, if they like you, that is the same thing that happens in UPSC. When you go before a board, you present your personality. If they like you, it's fine. Now, how will they like you? You have to have knowledge and एक sort of मतलब charisma, थोड़ा सा. तो नॉलेज तो आप ठीक है, आप पढ़ लोगे डैफ अपना, अपने बारे में जो आपका बैकग्राउंड है, वट एवर यू हैव डन, ऑल द करंट अफेयर्स अराउंड यू. देन द सेकंड थिंग इज वट एवर योर बॉडी लैंग्वेज इज, हाउ यू स्पीक, हाउ यू मूव योर हैंड्स, हाउ यू लाइक exude confidence. तो ये सारी चीजें मिलके ना, ये सारी चीजें do not come very simply. Like I can say it 100 times, but it won't come until you go down and make a daily timetable, make a routine in which these things are fitted in. I think that is the thing.
You covered many points of my next question, but still there is one thing which I want to ask is that UPSC syllabus is very extensive, as you have mentioned in the previous question. How did you break down complex topics to make them more manageable? Like, and did you have any specific strategies for retaining information in the long term? As you said that you have to change your strategy for the mains exam because you have to write the exam. So yes, like how did you retain that knowledge?
Yes. So this is a very important question, that how do you actually retain knowledge? This question goes back millennia. Like every person in all of history has thought about how do you retain knowledge. I think in UPSC, I have found this in first attempt. I wrote, like when I got into IRS, that time my rank was 225. So when I got rank 225 in the first attempt, I thought that I could do better than this. And in that attempt, what I had done, I had no strategy. Like you can say very simply, I had no strategy. I was just like reading things and going to the exam and writing it very organically, like an organic thing. But then I thought to go beyond that, I have to have a sort of structured mechanical approach. तो उसके लिए मैंने क्या किया था? For example, we have 4 GS papers in UPSC. So for every GS paper, I made short notes. Now these short notes I have put online also. They are in the form of like a long document जिसमें मैंने टेबल बनाया है. टेबल में the columns or are topic, statistics, whatever facts, quotes and all, examples, introduction, conclusion. So for almost all the topics that are there in the syllabus or that I could find in the previous year questions, I wrote all the statistics related to that. Now let's take an example of, for example, let's say the groundwater exploitation in India. The groundwater is going down and all those things. Now, if a question comes, it's a very common question that comes every year, water resources पे. You have to have an understanding firstly कि क्या हो रहा है. उसके लिए you need a statistic. So you have to remember that. So once you put that into table, you keep revising that table. That's what I did. So I had these 4 tables, the GS1, 2, 3, 4, and every time I would revise them before writing any test or any paper in the exam. So after doing that for almost, so this thing I did mostly for 1 year in my recent attempt, like 2022. So in this attempt, I remembered like so much of statistics, so many facts, so many examples for all the topics. Whatever would come in the UPSC, I would have something to write about it. Otherwise, कोई भी लिख सकता है, vaguely तो कोई भी लिख सकता है. Anybody can go and write some vague thing. But once you have to write, once you write something factual, something statistical, or you write some quote or something that has been given in some report, it becomes better. I think that is one way of retaining knowledge, to make short notes and have a structured short notes like thing. The second thing is you have to constantly revise, and not only revise in the sense that you just take it and passively read it. You have to get up and just close your eyes and think कि तुम्हें कितना याद है. जहां पे तुम रुक जाओगे वहां पे तुम रिवाइज करो. ऐसा नहीं कि तुम बस सारा पढ़ के you're just going along. Then that makes it a passive revision. You have to think कि you should remember all of it, and those things that you don't remember, you go back to them and see them. And then the same thing, third thing that comes into this is you have to practice this. So let's take an example. If I say that I'm going to write a test paper for GS1 or for optional or for anything, I have the short notes. Before the test paper, like 1 hour before, I'll go to the short notes, just revise them, take a broad look at them, revise the statistics and all, and then go and write the test paper and see ki how much increase or improvement in your performance is there after you've done that thing. I think these broad things have to be done, and most of the people think if there is some mantra or there's some secret thing, but I don't think there's such a thing. Mostly revision, short notes, and practice. This is the broad thing.
As you have mentioned, the table thing that you have practiced to write the conclude like till the conclusion. I think it helped you in mains exam as well. You didn't need to work on the same topic again. So yes,
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Uh,
So the same example, if we go back to water resources, I didn't have to go back and read the whole thing again. I just have to go back to that table and read the statistics example, whatever introduction conclusion. That's the thing.
so the next question is, did your academic background in civil engineering influence your preferences when it came to the subject in the UPSC exams? Were there any areas where your background provided you a unique advantage in your preparation?
No, absolutely not. I would say no, absolutely not. My background in engineering did not in any way help me or deter me. Neither help nor deter. It was a very sort of neutral environment that it provided. But one thing that I've seen is some people who have a background in engineering or something, they might take that as optional. I did not do that. I took something as optional, a subject called as anthropology. So, which was also sort of my, you can say, my second love after my engineering. So anthropology, I usually like used to read a lot of books about anthropology in my college also. I didn't know about UPSC preparation back then. I read a lot of books about evolution and genetics and tribal anthropology and all. So later on I came to know that there is such a subject in UPSC, and I also came to know that it's a scoring subject. So it was sort of a serendipity. I was very lucky. So I just thought, chalo, मैं anthropology लेके देखता हूँ. I took anthropology, then it really works well. In the first attempt, anthropology में, I hadn't done much because COVID आ गया था उस time. So I had kept my optional notes in Delhi and I was in back in J&K. So I hadn't done much, but I still got 280. And this time I did really well. I got 328 because of the interest that I had. I never felt bored of it. I would always sit down and read anthropology for like half a day. So the interest, if you have an interest in your background subject, you can go with that. If you don't have an interest, there are all these subjects in humanities you can always take.
So you have mentioned about the current affairs, which is a very hot topic of UPSC. Like if you want to do the UPSC, you have to like very sharp in current affairs. So staying updated on current affairs is crucial in UPSC exams. How did you approach the task of staying informed, and what sources or methods did you find most effective?
Yes. So regarding current affairs, I would say current affairs is mostly important not because it's directly asked. It may be asked to some extent in prelims, but it's more important to actually make you feel that you are studying something that is connected to things around you. So if you are reading polity, you are reading the newspaper, you see constitutional governors के related कोई issue है या कुछ भी ऐसा issue चल रहा है, तो you connect that with whatever you have read. And when you write the exam, mains exam for example, so you can quote those examples that have been happening in the current affairs. So मेरे लिए current affairs का क्या था कि I used to read a newspaper. In the initial attempts, I read a newspaper because you have to get acquainted with whatever is happening every day in the earlier attempts, because you have no idea. I came from an engineering background, so obviously we don't have much idea what is happening around. तो वो करना पड़ता है, but then in addition you have to also go for something like magazines, some research articles or something like that. So magazines, for example, EPW, I used to consult sometimes, or even magazines that are put out by the coaching institutes. So you can take them. They are more like a compilation of whatever you have already read in the newspaper. So after some point of time, what happened in this attempt, I did not read the newspaper. So I just left it because I had no time, or I thought ki I can do without newspaper, but I will never recommend that for someone who is just starting the civil services. In the start, you have to read it for 1.5 years. Then later on, you can just go with the magazines, read that stuff, एंड अगेन उसके तुम शॉर्ट नोट्स बना के यू कैन keep revising it until the exam comes. वो जाके it's fine, but do not go overboard with current affairs. Just do not think that the exam is exactly totally about current affairs only. That is not true. It might be 20-30%, but you have to limit it to an extent.
Okay. So, were there any significant challenges or obstacles you faced during your preparation? And if yes, how did you overcome them? The most important part.
Challenges during preparation, I would say. So earlier also I told, when I came to Delhi in July 2019, one of the challenges after that was like only half of my classes were done and COVID came. So I had to move back to JNK and I left my optional notes in Delhi. So sometimes it happens that you don't think long term. So I thought, okay, I will come back for prelims in like 1 month or something. I didn't know it was a global pandemic or something like that. So I just went home and I kept my optional in Delhi. Then I came to know that the exam is being postponed, and I was not able to read my optional notes. So that kind of hindered me from getting even better marks in the option. So that was one of the challenges that happened. The second thing, when I went back to JNK, so sometimes the internet would get cut there. So I would not have access to even online resources. But I think most of the people have some sort of uh, like either you have financial challenges, material challenges. You have to understand that UPSC is an exam that sort of provides you an equalizing field at this level. If you are going into the UPSC preparation, there is a lot of material available. A lot of people are also helping, like community. There are communities and all that where people provide free material, free online material, yeah, newspapers. So you can always access that. You can get that, and if you have uh, I would say the motivation to do this exam, you will definitely cover those obstacles. But again, the biggest obstacle that I have seen is the psychological obstacle, which is that मैं तो शायद कर ही नहीं पाऊंगा. And once, if you don't do it one time, let's say your prelims does not happen the first time, second time, then you become less and less confident. And I have seen it personally also, people who are really brilliant, really intelligent, probably more than me also, but they are not able to do the exam because they have less confidence. And the exam plays on that. Once you go to prelims, you have to be really like courageous in the sense that you have to tick without exactly knowing that this is the answer. So out of four, you would know that दो उसमें से गलत है, but आपको दो में से नहीं पता, let's say. Now here, your confidence will play a huge part. If you are very confident, you will most likely do the right thing. तो वो वाला जो चैलेंज है वो मेरे साथ भी आता था. Although I would say I am more of a sort of balanced person. I never feel totally underconfident, but sometimes it would really like happen. अचानक से preparation के बीच में किसी दिन अचानक से ऐसा लगा कि I can't do this. मैं क्यों आ गया यहाँ पे? But then you have to again come back. तो ये सारे challenges से जूझ के you have to go forward.
Similar to that question that you mentioned, that you have to go back to your hometown where you faced online crunch or the resources as well. So juggling personal life and rigorous study routine can be tough. So how did you manage to strike a balance, and were there any sacrifices you had to make?
So the thing here comes ki introverts versus extroverts. If you're an extrovert, then you definitely have to make a lot of sacrifices. For me, I was an introvert. I would never go around much. I had few friends at home. Sometimes we'd go sham ko ek ghanta, like for evening walk or something like that. That was still fine, but I usually keep to myself. I remain in my room. So if I am in Delhi, I'm in Kashmir, it does not matter much. But on the other hand, I have some friends who are extroverted and they came into the preparation, so they had to sacrifice those going to parties or uh, going to friends' home or something like that. थोड़ा सा आपको sacrifice तो करना पड़ेगा. So for example, one thing that you have to have in this exam is discipline. It does not matter कि आपको अच्छा लग रहा है या नहीं लग रहा है सुबह उठने. Let's say you don't feel like studying at all, you have to get up and study. That is what makes the difference between you and some other person. Otherwise, competition is so harsh that if you do not wake up, somebody else is waking up and studying. So आपको उठना ही पड़ेगा. So that competition you have to take into consideration. I think for those people who are really addicted to social media or really addicted to like going out and doing parties and all, they have to have some kind of sacrifice कि ये हम कम करेंगे. ऐसा नहीं कि बंद कर सकते हो. 15 दिन में you can like have 1 day off. That's still fine. Sometimes I would also feel कि मतलब बहुत ज्यादा हो गया आज, तो चलो ठीक है, अभी रहने देते हैं, आई कैन हैव रेस्ट फॉर 1 or 2 hours, बट देन अगेन आई कम बैक. ऐसा नहीं कि फिर ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि one day you're just leaving it, let's say you don't do preparation for one day, then the next day also you are feeling कि अरे अब तो ठीक है आज भी छोड़ देंगे. No, you have to have consistency. तो थोड़ा सा मतलब वो sacrifice करना पड़ता है. Second thing that you have to sacrifice is like talking to your family, even if you are in your home. You have to stay in your room. You can't just go and start talking to everybody. अरे ये हो रहा है वो हो रहा है. No, you have to stay in your room, keep to yourself, so that कि तुम उस माहौल में रहो. You are just thinking about the issues that are related to this examination. I think that's the thing. मेरे लिए it was sort of a, I would say, smooth ride in that sense. I didn't have to sacrifice much. और लोग, for example, they leave social media. I was not on social media at all. Instagram पे मैं था भी नहीं और अभी भी मैं I don't use it much. But on Twitter, I was there earlier. I just used to see like random tweets, but I never tweeted anything. I'm still there. So if you are sort of a social media addict, then you have to constrain that. वो चीज.
Uh, so, similar to that answer, that effective time management is crucial for UPSC preparation. How do you plan your daily, weekly schedules to cover the extensive syllabus, considering the vast syllabus? As you have
Yes.
mentioned that,
So
as we all know that UPSC has the biggest syllabus that I don't think
exactly.
find any end. So,
So this is the most crucial question, that you have to break down your larger goal into smaller parts. Like every person that I know बोलते हैं कि हमें डीएम बनना है, ठीक है. Every person would want to go to that level, have that authority or something. But the path is really crucial कि आप let's say you want to clear exam in the next year. तो एक साल आपके पास है. सो मैंने ऐसा किया था. सो आई वुड गिव यू एग्जांपल ऑफ दिस ईयर in 2022 CSE. So what I did, I like proper preparation for this exam. I started in like 2022 for 22 to the 22 exam. I started the preparation in November 2021. Okay. So from November, I had this plan exactly like prelims तक मैं ऐसे करूँगा. So I would what I would do, I had this notebook जिसमें मैंने सिर्फ टाइम टेबल ही बना रखे थे. पहले एक पूरा महीने का टाइम टेबल होगा कि इस महीने में ये सारा कंप्लीट करना है. So let's say कि I have to do one full revision of all the GS and all the optional in 1 month. Then it was broken down into days. So हर दिन मैं exactly ये भी लिखता था कि today I will write this test. Today I will read like this thing from this subject. So I would usually do 2 subjects in GS and like optional and then write every day. So वो मैंने एक टाइम टेबल बनाया था. उस टाइम टेबल में मैंने इस बार ये इंकॉर्पोरेट किया. आई इंश्योर दैट आई वुड राइट क्वेश्चंस लाइक आंसर्स एवरी डे. आई टुक प्रीवियस क्वेश्चंस ऑफ द यूपीएससी, वो मैंने 1 घंटा उसके लिए रखा फॉर जीएस. सिमिलरली 1 घंटा फॉर ऑप्शनल. एंड देन फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ द डे आई हैड अ प्रॉपर थिंग कि इतने घंटे में करना है. अगर नहीं हुआ उतने घंटे में तो वहीं पे काट के यू मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट सब्जेक्ट. ऐसा नहीं कि यू जस्ट कीप ड्रैगिंग इट. There's this law also, I think, is it Moore's law or something like that, which says that जितना आपके पास टाइम होगा वो वर्क विल लाइक फ्लो इनटू दैट टाइम. सो अगर आप सोचोगे कि आपके पास 12 घंटे हैं तो यू विल जस्ट कीप डूइंग दैट थिंग फॉर 12 hours. सो यू हैव टू कंस्ट्रेन योर वर्क अकॉर्डिंग टू टाइम. सो वैसे मैं करता था एक एक घंटे के हिसाब से. आई वुड कीप ट्रैकिंग द थिंग्स and that thing ensures that after 1 week you have done exactly the things that you wanted to do, at least 80-90%. और एक साल में बहुत ज्यादा वो cumulatively it will add up.
right. So, coming to the interview part, UPSC interview process is known for its depth. Can you share your overall experience during the interview, from the moment you entered into the room and the final interaction when you like finally you were coming out from that room with a smile?
Yes. So my first interview was in like CSE 2020. I have had 2 interviews. One was for that IRS when I went to the IRS, and another is for this exam CSE 2022. So the first interview was also very cool, but about this interview, this one, when I went inside, so I had already faced one interview, so I had some sort of preconceived notion कि ऐसे होता है. And when I went inside, so the setup this time was slightly different. Last time thoda rooms alag the. It was more like a conference sort of room. This time it was more like a normal room जिसमें से chairs वगैरह लगाए थे. So suddenly I was like, okay. So I said good morning and all, and then I sat, and the first question that ma'am asked, it was Preeti Sudan ma'am. She recently came here also to the training academy. So she asked that, oh, you, Wasim, you come from the most beautiful state of India, which is Jammu and Kashmir. So tell me about the district that you belong to, which is Anantnag. And also I started saying about that. And then it was very cordial. Mostly they were asking like things about tourism in JNK, about my subject anthropology and something like that. So mostly it's like a very cordial sort of environment. What they want to actually see is how you react to particular questions. They might sometimes throw you some trap questions, or sometimes they might ask something that you think, oh, ये तो मैंने सोचा नहीं था. So you have to ensure that you are giving a very objective assessment of that thing. ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए कि you're on some extreme, you have some extreme opinion. वो वाली चीज फिर then I came out, and last time when I had given interview I was out with like an idea कि मेरा interview ठीक हो गया. This time I was sort of on extremes. I was like either it was very good or it was very bad. I couldn't decide. Then I saw the marks later on were almost equal to last interview. Last time I got 184, this time 182. So it's a good score. Not very high, not very low. It's sort of a good score. More than average. I think average is 165. So if you are getting anything above 170, that's very good.
So achieving All India Rank 7 in the UPSC exam is truly commendable. So can you share the moment you found out about your rank and what it felt like to achieve such a high position? And how did
It
you
was
come to
actually
know about your rank?
it is actually very crazy. Last time also I saw the result. So in UPSC, what happens? You have to see three results. First the prelims, then the mains, then the last result. So you're always on this roller coaster ride of emotions. But this time what happened was I was in IRS Academy, NIT, which is in Nagpur. So उस दिन हमें पता था कि आज रिजल्ट आने वाला है. Since morning itself, when I went to the class, the training session, so I had laptop, iPad, and then phone. और तीन screens पे I had opened the UPSC website and I was just checking all time. So पूरा first half of the class, I went into that. I was not paying any attention what was happening in class. So then I had this one friend there. So she was asking me कि वसीम भाई तुम इतने anxious क्यों हो? It will happen. Don't worry. I said no, I don't know. I'm anxious, more anxious this time than last time. Even though I have done exam one time already, but I was more anxious probably because I had put in more hard work this time. So then what happened was the result did not come. Then during the lunch break, I went to my room and I was like, okay, I'm not having food this time. I'll just sleep. So when I slept, I got this phone call from my friend. Uh, his name is Faisal. So he called me. When he called me, I knew that something had happened. He would not call me if it was a bad thing, if some like I hadn't done the exam or something. He would never call me like that. He has called me because I have done something. So I opened the PDF. I did not even like call had been already cut. I opened the PDF and just on the top I saw my name like AS7. Just could not believe it. Then I saw the roll number also. It's really a surreal moment when you see those things, which seem very impossible to you. So this time I had this target that obviously I have to get into top 70 to get into IAS. But I never thought I would get the rank 7. So when I saw that, it was really a weird sort of feeling I can't even describe. Then I called my home and I said कि ऐसे मेरा 7 rank आ गया. So they were like, "Oh, okay. So your dream was to become IAS. So now it's fulfilled." And then a lot of calls were going on. I still couldn't process. Like right now, also when I'm thinking of it, I still can't uh, process the emotion. It's really surreal. And the best emotion is that of I think relief that you're out of the cycle. You don't have to read anymore. You don't have to do the UPSC things anymore. So that is
So that is why I asked that how did you get to know about it? So it is actually crazy and your anxiety went down through your friend. So yes. So transitioning from exam preparation to training for a civil service is a significant step. Can you share your experience during the training period and how it different from your pre-exam routine?
so the pre-exam routine is even though it's very tough, but you get to decide the routine. So I will decide, for example, I used to decide that I'll get up at 8 o'clock and then I will do this and that. But here in the training, you don't get to decide your routine. The training institute gets to decide your routine. So they will exactly tell you that you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. Suddenly, like we are like, oh, ye kya hoga? So 5:30 in the morning, then you have to have some sort of PT or yoga or Zumba or something. And then you have classes from 9:30 onwards. they go on to 4:30. After 4:30, sometimes in the earlier like foundation course. So we have a 3-month foundation course that started from August. It ended in November. So in foundation course, every like every alternate day you would have some cultural function or someone is coming, someone is giving a speech. So it's a lot of exposure to a lot of things, including like morning activities and the classes where different personalities from different areas come. Then you have cultural evenings and all, where classical music and all the classical dance and everything is done. So, regarding like if you see the difference, it's a very drastic change from one room where you're not talking to anybody. You're suddenly into this world where there are like 560, 600 people around you are constantly talking and हर कोई अपनी story बोल रहा है and something is happening. तो वो बहुत ही एक different type of experience है. It's a very enriching experience, a very sort of experience that gives you an exposure to a lot of things. जो आपने पहले नहीं सोचे थे, मतलब जो आपने पहले पढ़ा था, like you read about health. Now the health secretary will come and teach you about health. So that's a different experience. ऐसे ऐसे करके now we are into phase one. Phase one, like when the IAS trainees stay here and the rest of the people go to their own academies. It started from 6th November. Now we are into like half part is done. We're going to Bharat Darshan. So we will have a different kind of exposure. Now we will go and see a lot of places where we have never been, like Northeast. I have never been to Northeast. तो ये वाली चीजें जो एक्सपोजर होता है, इनसे आई थिंक यू बिकम अ मोर बैलेंस्ड, मोर फुलफिल्ड पर्सन, यू कैन से. नॉर्मली बहुत ज्यादा theoretical नॉलेज भी होता है. नाउ यू स्टार्ट टू गेन प्रैक्टिकल इंसाइट्स into how the governance works, and you start to also make really good friends here in the academy, जो कि लाइफ लॉन्ग फ्रेंडशिप्स भी कभी कभी हो जाती हैं. तो वो वाली चीज.
So I want to, by my inquisitiveness, I want to ask that you have mentioned yourself as as an introvert person. So does it affect after your like your in your academy?
सो सो द थिंग इज, इंट्रोवर्ट पर्सन का ये मतलब है कि मतलब आई विल हैव वेरी क्लोज पीपल, लाइक सम 2-3 people अराउंड मी, जिनके साथ मैं बहुत बात करूंगा, बट उससे बाहर में ज्यादा नहीं करूंगा. सो आई विल नॉट बी दैट काइंड ऑफ पर्सन हु जस्ट गोज एंड स्टार्ट्स टॉकिंग टू एवरीबॉडी. द थिंग दैट आई हैव सीन विद माई सेल्फ इज कि आई टॉक वेरी लेस, बट यूजुअली व्हेन आई फाइंड समवन हु इज like me, probably on the same frequency, same wavelength, I would talk a lot about them. Sorry, not about them, talk with them. So, but ऐसा होता है कि there are some people around me who are like really extroverted people, very jolly kind of people who would go around and make friendships with all the people. It doesn't affect your capacity as a civil servant, I would say, but it definitely obviously limits the kind of social interactions that you would have with a lot of people. मेरा इंटरेक्शन थोड़ा अलग टाइप का होगा और एक्सट्रोवर्टेड पर्सन का अलग टाइप का. बट आई हैव सीन वन थिंग इज a lot of people in UPSC here in the training academy are introverted, so you don't get that kind of a problem. So I find people like me, I'm like okay, yeah, even with other people I'm sort of fine.
As you embark on your journey to become an IAS officer, what motivated you to choose this specific service, and what aspect of it are particularly appealing to you? Is there any specific area or project you are keen to work on?
So the thing about this service, earlier I was in IRS IT, which is another service. So that was my second choice that time also. So the thing about this service is that it provides you with very diverse opportunities, from health to rural development to urban development, or women child development, and everything under the sun. Every part of governance you can be part of. So that sort of diversity is really appealing to me. It was really appealing to me from earlier on also. That is why I moved on from engineering to this. So I would definitely not want to go to something that is at this stage very technical, probably very specialized. I want to look at the whole gamut of things, how things are running. So that is one of the things. Then regarding particular things or particular sectors that I would like to focus on, I think at this point, again, I want to look at the whole thing. Like I look at socioeconomics also, technology also, women empowerment, gender issues, health and all, everything. I'm trying to read and learn as much as possible. And I think when I go to district training in April and all, I will definitely find something, some calling, some sectors that I would like to work on in the future.
Um, Juggling responsibilities can be overwhelming. So, can you share some specific strategies or habits that helped you maintain a healthy equilibrium between your personal life and your study life?
I don't know if I'm the perfect person to answer this question, but again, coming back to the problem, another thing here is that I ensured one thing throughout the preparation, that I talk to my family always. So no matter what happens, no matter how stressed I am or how happy I am, I ensured that मैंने उनको time बोला था कि शाम को इस time पे हम phone करेंगे. So around that time, they would always call me and I would talk to them, even if it is a 5 minute conversation or a 2 minute conversation. But every day I would make sure that I talk to them. That ensures that you are also linked to your social circle. तो रोज रोज आप घर वालों से एटलीस्ट बात करो, ऐसा मत करो कि you are just talking to them after 15 days or something like that. That will completely disconnect you from the reality. That is one thing that I used to do. Now, after I did the exam here, like phase one, I almost call them, try to call them every day. And whenever I get more time, even though it's a very hectic schedule still, but whenever I get more time, I would talk to them for 1 hour, which I could never imagine earlier. I talk to them for like 1 hour or something. And I ensure that I talk to friends also. If you cannot call, you can always WhatsApp, you can always text. So I think in life, it's more about priorities than time. You have to set your priorities that किसके साथ तुम्हें बात करनी है. दो तीन लोग होंगे जिनके साथ तुम्हें बात करनी है, तो you ensure that okay, you take 1 hour out, you talk to them, you ensure that you are connected to them. That ensures that your mental health is okay, because mental health issue is also a very big thing in this exam. You might get really stressed and even depressed, God forbid, if you get into that hellhole.
We always have a role model. So, were there any specific individual or role model who inspired you to pursue a career in civil services? If so, how did they influence your journey?
So, generally, I would say when I read history, so I found that uh, one of the greatest stalwarts, B.R. Ambedkar ji. So he has always been one of my role models. So the way he worked for social justice and social empowerment for the marginalized communities, that has really affected me. And the way he wrote a constitution, that is, I would say, the best constitution in the world. That was really inspiring. And he also talked about all India services in some of his speeches. He also talked about it in a very like a very good way. So that sort of inspired me. Then beyond that, I found many civil servants who had worked on the field and done wonderful jobs. One of the major civil servants who was my inspiration was Shahid Chaudhary ji. He's a civil servant, Secretary Tribal Affairs, JNK. So he has done again a lot of things for tribals. And throughout the preparation, I used to keep like a track of whatever he's doing. I would keep track of many other civil servants. So there is TN Seshanji, who has also brought a lot of reform in election commission. So these sort of civil servants always, like usually people would say that bureaucracy is red tapeism and this and that. I also had that sort of vision. But there are a lot of individuals who have actually done really good work, which has really helped in the nation. So looking at them, I also thought maybe I can do my bit. Maybe I can do some small thing that may help in nation building in the future. And I hope I can do that.
Certainly. And I want to ask you about your hobbies. Like or hobbies often provide a welcome break from the rigors of the study. So, can you share some of your favorite hobbies and how they contributed to maintaining a balance in your life along with your studies?
So one of the hobbies I had earlier was um, like going on these evening walks, solo evening walks. बिल्कुल अकेले में चला जाता हूँ ऐसे, because again I'm an introverted person. So I would go around and like when it's dark, तो वो मैं यहाँ पे भी करता हूँ. It's really soothing. I don't know. There is something about it that calms my mind. That is one of the things. Again, the second thing is I like to do nature photography. सो मैंने यहाँ पे भी, बिकॉज यहाँ पे मुझे और अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली, वी वेंट टू लॉट ऑफ ट्रैक्स एंड ऑल. सो वहाँ पे मैंने थोड़े से फोटोज वगैरह, तो वो मेरे को काफी अच्छे लगते हैं. आई ऑल्सो कीप इट लाइक अ मेमोरी कलेक्शन कि मैं यहाँ यहाँ गया था, वहाँ पे ये चीज थी. दैट्स द सेकंड थिंग. द थर्ड थिंग इज आई लाइक टू वॉच अ लॉट ऑफ टीवी शोज. So I am also currently, whenever I get time, like weekends पे जो भी, तो I binge watch a lot of shows. Um, जो भी, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई यूजली वॉच sci-fi shows, so साइंस फिक्शन के रिलेटेड जो भी होता है. एंड देन फोर्थ, आई रीड अ लॉट. दैट इज I don't know, maybe some people can call it a problem, but it's the thing with me that I read a lot of non-fiction. So these three, four things I always keep with myself whenever I go somewhere. If I'm on Bharat Darshan or if I'm on track or something, I always keep make sure that I do these things. I think in UPSC preparation, it becomes really difficult to sometimes like ensure that you are keeping in touch with your hobbies. But I always made sure that two of my hobbies I could always do, which is one was reading because UPSC itself is related to reading, so it was not a problem. The second thing, I watched a lot of TV shows during UPSC preparation also. In fact, before prelims, like 1 week before prelims, I watched a full TV show and then I was so guilty for a lot of time. I was thinking मेरा एग्जाम ही नहीं होगा. तो ये वाली चीजें, that's the things that.
So could you share any of your favorites, binge watch or the books to our audience for the UPSC aspirants specifically?
तो यूपीएससी एस्पिरेंट्स के लिए TV shows mein, I would say because I have watched a lot of science fiction, so you can watch. There's one alternate history series which is called The Man in the High Castle. If you watch it, it's an alternate, like a history of World War II. What would have happened if the Axis powers had won? So it's a very good series. I liked it very much. Then the second series that I recently watched after this exam was Ozark. I think a lot of people must have watched it. It's a very famous series. It's about how a person can do anything for his family. So that sort of stuff. So that I really like. My favorite series of all times, I would say, is Westworld. It's a very good science fiction series which shows the power of artificial intelligence and robots and everything that's going on currently. So I think those are the series. And regarding the books and all, if somebody wants to read, I would say you can read books like Silk Roads, which is a history of the world, a general history of the world. I think everybody should read history because it gives a sense of where you are, why you are there. So that is one good book. Another favorite book of mine is Rationality, written by Steven Pinker. It's a really good look at why people sometimes become really irrational, why fake news is there, all those things. So it can help you in the exam itself. And I always say that this UPSC should not only become about the syllabus, it should become about you. You should become so knowledgeable that UPSC cannot reject you. तो वो कैसे होगा कि आपको रीडिंग अपना हैबिट बनाना पड़ेगा. You have to read so much that you know a lot about everything. तो कुछ ना कुछ मतलब कोई भी क्वेश्चन आएगा तो you can always write some expert opinion, something like that, and you can be a notch above others. So it's very good to read generally also, and in UPSC definitely.
So now you have achieved success in the civil services examination. How do you believe your roles as an IS officer will impact society and community?
I would say that is a question that I would not like to answer at this moment because at this time I'm just an officer trainee in IAS, so I'm just looking at the whole things, trying to learn things. But the impact of IAS definitely, it depends on when you go to the field, you learn a lot of things if you have that motivation. And I believe that I have that motivation to do some things. So when I go to the field, I will definitely try to have as much impact as possible. The rest will obviously be judged by history. So I cannot say much about that.
Um, I want to ask that what strategies or tips do you have or effectively managing and covering the extensive material? Could you elaborate on how aspirants can make the most out of the practice exams to enhance their preparation?
So about this, I think the discipline is the key. If you have to ensure that you cover the whole syllabus, you have to break down the syllabus into smaller parts, which means that every week, every day, every month, you have to have a schedule for that thing and put that into time brackets. And regarding the practice exams, also just put, like, for example, if you have to do any practice exam, put it every third day or something like that. You have to have your own schedule. It cannot exactly be said that to me, ye kar. Everybody finds their own schedule, but put it somewhere in the table itself, timetable itself, so that तुम वो लिख के ही रहो. And every day, this time I did it. Everybody can do it. Every day, write at least some questions of the previous years of UPSC. So previous year questions of UPSC के हैं, people think that they are not very relevant, but they're actually the most relevant thing in this exam. वहां से आपको पता चलता है कि यूपीएससी एक्चुअली पूछती क्या है. So once you know that, you can obviously frame your answers in that.
So at the end, I have one question. Like I want you to convey a message or rather an advice for the future upcoming aspirants of the civil services who want to become an IAS.
So I think one of the things that I would say, I covered two things earlier. I would say that in one sentence, which is be curious, be disciplined, and be hardworking. If you have these three things, you will really excel. If not in this exam, then definitely in your life. And I would say these are the three things that happened, helped me also, and they will definitely help most of the things. If you're not curious about things, uh, do not try to come into this exam. I would say you have to be really curious about everything that this exam provides. Second, you have to be very disciplined, have your own timetable, stick to that timetable. Every day should be at least to cover 90% of whatever is written in the timetable. The third thing is should be really hardworking. When you are studying, you should really be studying and not thinking about something else. When you're writing the answers, you should really be writing the answers. If you do these three things, I can say with like certainty that you will do great things in your life, and definitely in UPSC.
So UPSC, since practice is the key to success, so UPSC is all about practice and discipline, punctuations in your studies and your study plan. And that concludes today's episode. A heartfelt thank you to our special guest Waseem Ahmad Bhat for sharing his incredible journey and insights with us. To our listeners, we hope Waseem sir's story has inspired and motivated you on your own path, whether you are preparing for exam or pursuing for the exam or pursuing for your dreams as well. Remember, success is not just a destination, but a journey filled with dedication, resilience, and the passion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.